في مقابلة مع الشرق ناقش الرئيس المشارك للخدمات المصرفية العالمية في جي بي مورغان تشيس فيليبو غوري التوجهات الاستثمارية العالمية في ظل التوترات الجيوسياسية الجارية في الوقت الحالي. وتحدث غوري عن خطة البنك للتوسع في المنطقة في ظل التطور المستمر والجاذب للفرص. نتابع ما قاله الضيف في هذه المقابلة التي أجرتها الزميلة إسراء إبراهيم.
And there is definitely a high degree of interest or anxiety to a certain extent from clients around what you just mentioned, the geopolitical landscape. My answer to those questions tend to be always that the geopolitical winds have been blowing at times in a direction and at times in a different direction. And we should not overreact ever in one sense or in the other. Some of these events are to a certain extent very difficult to predict, and some of the impact of some of these events could be difficult to predict too. Definitely in this part of the world there is a high degree of interest for the price of oil and how the impact on Venezuela, how could that spill over into the price of oil. And again, it's very difficult to assess upfront the full extent of what will happen, and therefore our advice to clients is have a strategic plan on your mind, on a strategic direction that you are going towards, and try to adjust as little as possible to make as few tactical decisions as possible as you progress in towards your strategic goals. Otherwise, the risk with the geopolitical tensions is that you end up zigzagging a little bit too much.
And do you see the geopolitical tensions actually and really affecting how and where capital is deployed, or is it still more of a background noise at this point?
It is a very good question, and I think there are two different answers to it. So in the short term, I think it at times is more background noise, as you mentioned. Over the medium to long term, it affects capital allocation. So people take stock, decisions get made on the basis of trends. And when the trends tend to be in a direction, they affect the capital allocation. So having spent 12 years in Asia too, I have seen how certain decisions play out. They play out always not within a quarter or 1 year. They tend to play out over 3, 5, 7 years, but they have an impact.
Your investment banking fees fell in Q4. Yeah. Is that about competition? Is it about client confidence? No,
I would say it's a couple of technicalities. One is the year-on-year Q4 25 at Q4 24, the comparison, Q4 24 was very strong, so there was a little bit of comparison, and there was a timing of some transactions that were supposed to happen in December, and they moved to January, and
so you're expecting a pickup in Q1?
Yes.
Okay. Are AI bubble concerns likely to slow activity a little bit, or do you look at AI as a long-term driver for deals and a long-term growth story?
So AI is definitely a long-term fundamental component that will reshape the economies around the world for years to come. And therefore it will play probably a disproportionate role in the next few years in terms of deal activity, importance, impact to financial markets, and so on and so forth. There are definitely from some corners, some concerns around valuations. The questions are timing of profitability of certain investment vis-a-vis bending on the curve on costs, the social impact a certain platform might have in terms of potential job losses. And I would add that there are different AI models that they're being tested right now. There is a Western side of AI, there is an Asia-Pacific side of the AI. They don't necessarily monetize in the same way, and therefore there is definitely a high degree of competition in terms which model will ultimately result as the winning one. But it is definitely reshaping the way in which we think about financial markets. There is no question.
And when it comes to financing conditions, are rate cuts translating into more supportive capital markets for investors and clients?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, the stability that we can foresee for the rest of 2026 in terms of rates have been lowered. In Europe, probably they will remain stable at this level, which is pretty low already. And in the US, we assume that there will be stability over the course of 2026 too, paired with credit spreads, which are at the tightest level in history, makes it very compelling from a financing standpoint. And you might have seen that last week was, if not the most important, one of the most important weeks in the history of issuance of debt ever in the history. So there is definitely that sense of there is a market out there that is favorable to issuers, and people and investors and issuers are taking the opportunity to issue.
Let's turn to the Middle East, to the region, and it's definitely an exciting part of the world. JP Morgan has deepened its presence in the region, especially in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Where do you see the biggest opportunities?
So, I agree with you. When I became CEO of Europe, which was my job prior to this one, after leaving Hong Kong, I spent a lot of time looking at Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. And it became apparent that the Middle East was definitely the region that was prime for further investments, that we were witnessing a structural shift, not a cyclical one, a structural shift of interest in this part of the world that justified renewed interest and investments from our part. In my mind, the Middle East could be, from a geographical standpoint, the winner in the Global South narrative for a variety of different reasons. And therefore, we took the conscious decision, together with the rest of the operating committee of the firm, to invest further in the region by putting more boots on the ground, more capital, and invest and generically invest more. We have a long-standing presence. We celebrated last year our 90th anniversary in the Kingdom, and we have been in the UAE for over 50 years. So we are truly excited about being part of the fabric of the economic society, which is the Middle East.
The IPO activity is booming in the region, especially in Saudi Arabia. Are you planning maybe to expand your team, to hire more talent, to keep up with the activity?
The answer is absolutely yes. It is a reflection of what we're doing. We are doing it in a projected and structured manner, but we have around 150 colleagues now in Riyadh. The plan is to grow that headcount further, the same way we are growing headcount here in Dubai.
Do you have a target for that?
There is, I'm not at liberty to discuss it.
It's okay. And which sectors do you see most opportunities? And you talked about energy.
Yeah, energy, infrastructure, these are critical sectors for this part of the world. I would say, though, there is also renewed interest for anything that is related to technology, AI, data centers. So there is definitely all the macro themes that I see globally playing out.
Okay, let me talk about Saudi Arabia. They just eased some restrictions on foreign investments in their equity market. Is that going to change how you advise clients, the types of deals done there?
Yes, I think every step that is taken to improve the liquidity and the stability, and to a certain extent of the predictability and the price discovery of financial markets, help the local economy. These financial markets grow in incremental steps. It's rare, at least in my experience, having witnessed those in Asia Pacific too, it's rare that you have a discrete step. It's a series of actions that in a cumulative fashion create that growth in the financial markets and in the arena of a specific country.